Hello sports fans! Woo! How are you doing? Skövde Game Arena, the home of futsal. What is futsal? Anybody know? Pratar vi svenska eller engelska förresten? Svengelska. Per Backlund, vad har vi för språk? English. We're supposed to speak English. Is there anyone in the room that does not understand Swedish? All right. Somebody? English? Swedish? Svensk? Okej. Okay. Vi kör svenska då tills någon... jag kan inte så bra engelska så det skulle kännas bra. Petersson, Stunlock Studios, välkommen på scen. Oskar Burman, Fast Travel Games, välkommen på scen. Troedsson, Raw Fury, välkommen på scen. Martin Walfisz, Nordisk Film Games, välkommen på scen. Ann-Sofie Sydow, Future Games. Nej. The Game Assembly Malmö. Sorry, det var ofrivillig mobbing. Martin Bunge-Meyer, King. Välkomna ska ni vara allihopa. Mina vänner, det här är frågestunden med dataspelsbranschens styrelse. Jag heter Per Strömbäck, jag är talesperson för dataspelsbranschen och det här är min styrelse. Vi har precis haft styrelsemöte i ett omklädningsrum här uppe så vi har varit väldigt produktiva. Och nu så tänkte jag att ni skulle få chansen att ställa frågor till the puppet masters, de verkliga makthavarna i vår bransch. I vår bransch, då menar jag vår bransch. Men jag tänkte jag kunde få intervjua dem först och sen får ni hemskt gärna hojta, kasta saker, springa upp på scen eller på något annat sätt begära ordet. Jag tror vi har en springmick också. Ifall ni vill fråga dem något, okej? Okay? Va? Oh, we have more English speaking people. All right, so we'll do this in English after all. I'll be on this side actually. This is my English side. Great. Give me more. I need some more. I need some more bashing answer. All right. Petersson, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Tired but pleased. We have concluded today.
Yes, because Stunlock is the local star of Skövde, right?
I'd say so right now.
And no contest. And you have a big release coming up.
Yep.
Tell us.
Yes, we released Battleright in early access like a month ago, and now we're aiming for launching it free to play in the beginning of 2017.
And how has the early access been for you so far?
It's been brilliant, better than expected actually. So now we have so much to do. That's why we're quite tired but pleased.
Give us some numbers.
Oh, really? I think we hit 300,000 copies today.
And I understand that you have tried a new strategy, a new monetization strategy for the early access and the full release. Can you tell us about that?
Well, for the early access, we do a $20/euro deal to get access, and you're also going to get all the champions that's ever going to be released in the game with that. We had a similar deal in Bloodline Champions back in 2011, but that was like $90. So our old community is very pleased with this early access. But the free-to-play is still under discussion and development, so time will tell.
All right, time will tell. And it's interesting that you can build on... Bloodline Champions was your first game, and you also won the Swedish Game Awards with that title. What, 2011?
Swedish Game Awards for 2009.
2009. Wow.
I feel so old.
Yeah, well...
But Oskar's here, it's okay.
You're probably the youngest person on this stage. But so you could build on that success. 7 years later, you can turn it into a new game. And
yeah, it's quite a similar game, but a lot better. And I think the world is more ready this time because we did free to play and we did arena/MOBA style just when it was coming up. And now I think the world is more ready for it. Oskar actually was on the jury when we won Swedish Game Awards. That's why I mentioned him as more old.
All right, so you're part of the...
I vote for you guys.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, great. And so lots of indie developers want to self-publish, but historically you've worked a lot with other companies, publishers and other developers. Tell us about that experience.
For Blood and Champions, we had a publisher. It was Funcom in Norway. The best part about Funcom was that they're also a game developer and did their own online games, so they had a very good understanding on how we're working. We also worked with a publisher, and that was quite a straightforward work for hire with Deep Silver when we did Dead Island Epidemic, which is a whole different kind of experience. It's their game, you're building for them, but they hire you for your expertise, of course. But there's a bit more discussions, and they always have the final call. And at the end, unfortunately, they came to the, a part of the game development industry that's not so glamorous, that they actually cut the game before release. And with Battlerite, we are self-publishing, but we have a financial partner in Coffee Stain, so they invested in the project just to make sure we got to where we are now, actually.
So in a way, you have experimented with all the different business models that exist in our industry.
Yeah. I haven't sold the company twice, though, like Martin does.
Yeah, we'll get back to that. So what is there a preference? I mean, going forward, do you have a strategy? Will you continue to work with others, or is this just kind of a way to build up your own profile so that you can be completely independent and self-sustained?
I mean, completely independent is definitely what you want to go for, because then you have complete power over your product and the whole way to market. But then you can also, of course, use people to help you where their expertise is better, but you never want to have someone else have veto over your product if you can avoid it. It's, of course, a very good option if you don't have the money to do it otherwise, but we'd prefer to do it this way.
All right, thanks, Thomas. We might get back to you, but now I want to hear from Oskar. Oskar Burman, welcome. You've been you worked in some of the most prominent games companies in Sweden: Avalanche, DICE, and most recently Rovio. And now you have started your own business, and let's get back to that. But before you left Rovio, what did you do there?
So I founded Rovio's first and only studio outside of Finland. So we built a studio in Stockholm, started in 2012, and the studio is about 40 people today. When I left, it was 40 people.
And what kind of game did you make?
And we created a couple of different games, but the most successful one definitely has been Angry Birds 2, which was launched in July last year, and since then has been Rovio's fastest revenue generating game ever. So that was a good success for the Stockholm team.
Give us a number.
No, I can't do that. But it's very, very lucrative.
Okay, we'll have to do with the fastest.
Up Annie. It's the best tool you can ever have if you want to check out revenues.
The best revenue generating game of Rovio from all time. Can I get a? All right, great, thanks. All right, and in spite of all this success, you left Rovio to start your own company, Fast Travel Games. What is that all about?
It was easy. I mean, VR is here, and I've been so excited to do something for VR since I was like 10 and saw Lawnmower Man, the movie. So I really, really wanted to get into VR when I had the chance, and now I'm a firm believer that if you want to find success in a new big platform, you'll need to do it early. If you look at mobile, the big players today were the ones that didn't exist before mobile, like Supercell and Rovio and King, for example. So I think you need to get there early and learn, because it's a completely new thing to master, and you need to start doing it, because you're gonna fail a couple of times until you find success.
But you were very patient. You saw Lawnmower Man in what, 1990,
yeah,
and then you waited 26 years.
Doing some games over here and then waiting.
And where I mean, VR, fine, but there are so many different ways you can approach VR. What's your approach? Do you want to make something broad, casual, or do you want to make the AAA of VR? Or what's the idea? Our
take is that the market over the next 1, 2, 3 years is probably going to be more the hardcore players that can afford those systems. I'm pretty sure that mobile is going to take off, but I think mobile is not really ready for for the games we want to do. So we're going to aim at the 3 high-end systems.
And do you have a preference for platform, or are you going to cover both the PlayStation,
We're
VR?
going to try to cover all of them.
All right. So how different is it then to develop for the Vive, for example, as opposed to Oculus?
Well, it's quite different since the Vive is room scale and Oculus and PlayStation is seated experiences. So you really need to bring out a concept that works in all of those cases. And it can be quite hard. And when will we get to play the first game from Fast Travel? Hopefully next year. I have a very ambitious target for the team, so we'll see what we can do.
I hate it when developers say hopefully about deadlines.
You worked with games. You know what it is. When it's done, exactly.
The game's released when it's done. All right, great. Thanks, Oskar. We'll follow that closely. Now, if you wouldn't mind passing the mic to KM, another old-timer, sorry, another veteran of the Swedish.
We share the same hairstyle for a reason.
Another beautiful haircut, yeah. And you've worked many years with DICE. How many years?
15 altogether.
Ooh.
No.
Everybody should get a woo. All right. And tomorrow, DICE releases the next incarnation of its hugely successful Battlefield series, Battlefield 1, raving reviews, most viewed YouTube trailer ever, etc., etc. Do you miss them?
I mean, I've got this question quite a bit after I left this summer. Of course, I miss them. After 15 years with friends working together, working very hard together, it's like leaving a second family. So, of course, I wish them the best of luck, and not that they need any luck, because it's usually mostly about skill and hard work, but that definitely shows in the latest game. All
right, and you left, this summer, and you joined a new company. Who did you join?
Well, I joined a small micro-publisher called Raw Fury, which were formed in the beginning of 2015, where a couple of my old friends, actually, they started it, and it felt like the right thing for me to do. I've been involved in the small accelerator called Stugan, that some of you might know of, basically bringing young and newly formed, mostly independent developers that fly them out into the Swedish forest, where they sit and code games, make games for 8 weeks, completely in an altruistic way, basically just have them do it. They get food and lodging. And that was founded by Oskar and his friend Tommy. And being part of that as a mentor and a sponsor really inspired me to do something completely different from what I've done for the last 15 years. And that was basically the trigger for me to go and do and see what I could do to actually help new developers with their games.
And what kind of business what does Raw Fury do for kind of business?
Well, if you look at it from a very, just the details, we're a publisher, but the idea behind Raw Fury is to do things quite differently. I've been working on publishing before in a small part in Sweden, mostly on the development side, and I would say this, that making games has changed a lot over the last 15 years. There's a lot of things happening, constantly evolving, anything from the actual games that you guys are making to actually, input like VR or, there's a lot of different things that are happening. But on the publishing side, I actually think that there's been quite a bit of a flat line, not much of a pulse. So the idea with Raw Fury is actually to challenge this old status quo, as we would like to call it, regarding that it's usually the publisher that comes in with the money, and initially you always have this feeling that the person that has the money is always the one that calls the shots, a little bit what Tao said here before. We want to change that. We want to change it so it's actually a partnership, because whoever makes the games, they are the creative force behind it. What they need is not somebody to tell them what they should do and do this and do that. What they need is a partner to help that game be successful. If you want to, and if you have the funding, you can try to do everything yourself, but you need to think about all the other work that actually sits outside of making the game. But that's the space where we work and establish the business in. Basically, we try to help developers with whatever they need. But of course, all the traditional publishing stuff as well, like funding, PR, marketing, etc.
And before you joined, Raw Fury had huge success with a game called Kingdom. Now you just released a game called Goner. Tell us about that.
Well, it's an especially fun story. It's made by a company called Art in Heart that is just founded. The main guy behind it, Ditto, he's called. He might actually even be here.
Ditto.
No, I don't
Where
hear
are
any
we?
shots.
Make yourself heard.
I heard a rumor that he might be here.
Ditto has left the building.
The fun part is that he was actually part of Stugan in the first year, 2015. So he's, that's where he wasn't working on that game at that point in time, but this is the second game he worked on after that. So that's an extra little good story there. We released the game just very, very recently. It's doing well for us. It's reviewing very well on Steam, etc. And we're now working with Ditto to talk about how we're going to continue to develop the game in the future to consoles, as an example.
And what's the reaction so far to Gunnar?
Well, it's been...
Yeah, give us a number. I want a number.
95% positive reviews on Steam.
Ooh. All right. Yeah, well, thanks. I think we end on that with you.
Thank you.
It's almost unbeatable. Martin, can you do better? Martin Walfisz, Tao joked that you had... It's actually no joke. You sold your own company twice, or is it 3 times? And then you sold your new company once and bought it back?
Yes. So I will probably sell it twice, hopefully.
So what do you do besides buying and selling your own company?
That's a good question. Well, I've been in the games industry for 20 years and starting companies and have had a lot of great fun. But most recently, just 2 months ago, I joined Nordisk Film, which is a part of the Danish Egmont Media Group. And as a person, I'm an entrepreneur. I've never thought I'd join a big media group. But I started talking with them before the summer, and they said that they were interested in starting to invest in the games industry.
Invest, folks, the magic word, invest.
Yes. And as we started or continued talking, I realized that they had very serious plans and they were a very good bunch of people. So without giving you any exact numbers, their plan, or I should say our plan, is to invest hundreds of millions of kronas into the Nordic games industry in the coming years. Basically equity investment into game studios.
Hundreds of millions.
Yes.
Yes. You should do this.
Okay, another time.
All right. We'll get back to the investment part. The company that you founded, Massive Entertainment, and sold an uncertain number of times.
Twice.
Just released, or this spring released, Tom Clancy's The Division, and I'm told it's the fastest selling new franchise ever in the games industry. So 2 questions. Do you miss that? Do you miss being part of that kind of launch and that kind of AAA 5-year development cycle? And how much of your flavor or your legacy, the impulse you made on the company is still there?
Well, I left Massive 7 years ago. So to answer your second question first, I can't take much credit for the division and its success. I guess I can take credit for building a successful game studio, and obviously some of my vision and thoughts for the company has been sustained in the company. But no, it's obviously the people at Massive who are just fantastically talented and hardworking. And then for your first question, if I miss it, yes, I do miss sort of the big AAA games. But I'm the kind of person, I want to eat the cake and still have it. So whatever I would do, I also would want to do the other thing. So yeah, I tend to want to do a lot of stuff at the same time. But I've also been sort of fairly good at focusing. This is just sort of, okay, I'm rambling on. Please ask another question.
All right, I have a great game concept. I have great tech, Unity actually. I have a great team, some old friends that I hired from your companies actually. And we're setting up a new studio and we're going to take over the world. How do I get investment from you?
Are you actually announcing a new studio on stage?
Let's talk hypothetically.
Okay. Well, Nordisk Film Games, our sort of sweet spot is to invest in more established companies that have between 10 and 100 people that already released 1 or 2 games or maybe even more, and hopefully has positive cash flow. So we're not an investor that are going to look directly into this sort of early stage startups. We might do some sort of early startups, but then it would be then with people that have a lot of experience working inside the bigger studios and then sort of jumping and have a very unique idea. But with that said, we still believe that sort of the early seed stage investing is very important. So even if we're not a seed stage investor, we still have some ideas of how we can sort of make that happen in some way. But I can't go into more details about that yet.
Okay, but that's great. But if you're a studio with 10 to 100 people and you have a positive cash flow, why would they want investment?
Well, we can put in a lot of money, and basically our idea is to help the studios get to the next level, right. to build their own IP and make sure that they keep owning their own IP. So that's another part of our sort of investment thesis, is that we want to be a minority shareholder. We don't want to come in and control the company. We want the founders, the studio, the talent at the company to control the company, and then we can help with money and whatever else we can support with.
So many people have asked for something like this for so many years, and finally it's here. It's great to see that there's an investor with big resources who had the common sense to hire somebody who knows the industry to manage their investment. So,
I'm also very happy.
Yeah, no pressure, no pressure. Now for the future of games education, Ann-Sofie Sydow, the Game Assembly in Malmö. How many % of the Swedish games workforce have you educated?
7%.
7%.
Yes.
That's also worth a.
Yes, we started 2008, so it's a pretty good number.
Yes.
So, but I wish I had some more education so I could, grow and be like 20, 50% or something.
Yeah, and why stop at 50? Let's get back to
world domination.
Yeah, and I mean, why only Sweden? Come on.
No, that's only in Sweden. I mean, that's the ones who works in Sweden. Then we have other ones who leave our country, but hopefully comes back.
Yeah, they become the ambassadors and then the boomerangs.
Yes.
Yeah, but what's the secret then? What makes a game education successful?
Our secret sauce is to make.
Don't tell anyone.
No. Our secret sauce is actually to make people work together, cross-disciplinary, and with a very kind of a strict framework, and within the framework have, total creativity, but always learn how to be nice to each other and understand that they're very privileged having the opportunity to be in a country where they have free education. So that they take advantage of the time they actually have, and work hard.
And where do you see the Swedish games educations in light of the world? Are we holding our weight or punching?
Absolutely. I think the way I see it, I think we have one of the best educations in the world. Absolutely. Because we have, I talked to Martin about this before, but we have a way to, a thought of consensus within, we've grown up with it. So we know that nobody is better than the other. So, and we're taught how to work together in a basic way, but we need to work harder on it, but we're good at it from the beginning. We know that it's good for us though.
And so yours is an yrkeshögskola, higher vocational training. Is that the proper?
It's higher vocational education. Yes, advanced higher vocational education.
Advanced higher, third level difficulty.
X2000.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And lots of people here are active students or have been students at Högskolan i Skövde.
Yes.
But that's an academic education. What's the difference?
We, as an yrkeshögskola, you don't do research. We work with research, but we don't do research. At a university, you have a possibility to do research and maybe go deeper into a research, career. But I think that's the main. And of course, we have internship written into our education. So 1/3 of our education is an internship, and that's not really what they have at the universities. But Högskolan i Skövde has some other really good perks, like go to a science park and stuff like that. That I would like to adopt.
And you said that you wanted more programs in your education,
Yes.
but you need an approval by the Yrkeshögskola authority for that. What kind of message would you give to the policymakers to help the educators?
I think that we actually talked to Damberg today, the minister, and we said that and he actually said that he thought that the authorities are kind of too strict when it comes to the applications, that the authorities rather look at, if they write something wrong, they don't accept the application, to start an education, but rather than look at the education and what they do for the industry and for the region. That I totally agree with him. It's not that we should, write sloppy applications, but look at what we do. I could easily have the double amount of students in Malmö.
All right.
And I have 200 already.
All right. Thank you, Ansa. Now, Martin, you're the communications director of King.
Yes.
Is that correct? And what kind of games do you make? Have you ever heard of King?
We do casual games. We have a great title called Candy Crush Saga, and some iterations of it, and another type of games in our portfolio.
Can you give us a number?
World domination.
Ooh, that's not as nice a woo as the others. All right. And there was a really cool thing happened the other week with your founders. Can you tell us?
Yes, for you who have been to Terminal 5 lately, there is actually a photo on Hall of Fame with the founders of King. 4 of the 5 founders are actually Swedish. So we were up there now together with Notch as well. So that was a fun event and an acknowledgement, I guess, to the whole gaming industry in Sweden. It was about time.
Since they don't give knighthoods anymore, I think this is as close as anyone can get.
Yeah, maybe.
And you're also here with something called Defold, which is a new arm of King's activity. I mean, you're not here, but colleagues of yours are here. I met them on the train. So
Yeah, correct. We have a booth out there when we're showing an engine called Default that we actually use ourselves to build our games on. But we think it could be a better engine if a lot of more people use it. So it's totally for free. And there is a free lunch, actually. I mean, it's actually for free. So, and it's a great engine, I think, to build games for the mobile.
What? So you use you give it out for free so you can improve the engine and make your games better?
Yeah, correct.
Is that the logic?
Yeah.
All right. So it's a win-win, or are you using all the naive game developers out there, all the hopefuls, as your servants?
No, actually, not at all. I think we wanted to contribute back to the community as well, and to give away our engine was one of the things we could do. And actually, we really believe in if we do joint ventures or we learn together, and also we have a trained. If you develop your game at Default, eventually maybe you want to work for King, and if you know about Default already and know how to code in Default, that's a pretty good advantage.
And how many people work for King now?
We're about 2,000 people, but we're now a part of a much bigger group, Activision Blizzard, and which is a fantastic owner, of course, because is there one out there that knows games? It's them. They've been around for a long time, but haven't done so much on mobile. So maybe that's one of the reasons why they were approaching King.
Will you make Call of Candy or something like that?
Yeah, well, maybe. Yeah, we'll think about it.
Could be an interesting mashup. But I'm curious because there's so many people working for King. And where do you hire from? Do you hire from game educations like Skövde and
yes,
the Game Assembly?
we have people from Skövde and we have people from Games Assembly, and so it's a real mix between. But almost everyone has an education in the background. So yeah, we support a lot of the Swedish game educations.
Highly trained professional game developers, that's what we love. What's next for King? What do you see going forward? What's the crystal ball tell you?
Well, I think we're still growing, and we have a lot of studios around now, and I think we will. I mean, of course, we will try other formats. We're looking into going into more mid-core, but also expanding our franchises that we have to support them. That's a quite big challenge to support all the games you have, but also go into other categories or other games. So we'll continue to innovate.
Excellent. So people are pointing to their watches because you have a train to catch, and actually that's good timing because we're out of time on this stage. I never felt so much as a rock star with spotlights in my face, not seeing the audience, and having a proper sound engineer. That's not always the case. And I think my backup band did a really good job. So thank you, dear board of directors. And thank you, the audience. This has been the Q&A. Är det försenat? Ja, men de måste dra. Aha, okay. All right, so only some people have to leave, it turns out. Okay, tack Martin. Tja. Hej då, Oskar. All right, so some people can actually stay. That's great. Do you want to stay? I'm told we have 15 more minutes, so we should spend them wisely. That's great, because now that you've gotten to know the board a little bit, we can ask them about the future, trends they see in the industry, what's the long-term view and stuff like that. But also be cool if you guys, if you have some questions, feel free. Do I see a hand? Yes, all right. You, sir or madam, please tell us who you are. And
me, sir or madam, whatever you prefer.
I don't see anything. I just see some movement and I fire.
Well, so I'm a game writer, a fledgling game writer in the making, if you would, here in Skövde. And if there's a message we as game writers have received that's been sort of confusing, it's A, that studios are really looking for game writers, and B, that compared to the other disciplines, designers, graphic artists, and so on, we will have a more difficult time finding a job. So two conflicting messages. So I would like to ask you, how do you view specifically game writers? Do you train your designers at the Game Assembly in something resembling story? Do you look for game writers specifically in your studios? And what do you use them for? That you do not find, competences you do not find in, say, designers?
Yeah, game writers, excellent question. Who wants to tackle that? Do we need game writers, or are they overstated? Quem?
Well, no, they're absolutely not. You know, what did you say? Overrated? No.
Overrated. I said overstated,
Overstated,
which makes no
yeah.
sense at all. Let's pretend I said overrated.
No, but good writing is actually something that it's very important, right? The games industry so far, when it comes to single-player game story, I think we have a little bit of a bad rap when it comes to telling good stories. We tend to focus on the technical part, that it's the animation, it's the rendering, whatever, but actually a lot of it has to do with the pure basic of writing something, I would say. There's been a lot of talk over the years, like, oh, we have so much to learn from Hollywood, etc., see what they're doing, and absolutely, yeah, they can teach us a lot about storytelling, etc., but I actually think that we have quite a bit to learn them when it comes to interactive entertainment, which they're going to realize over the next 10 years, probably. But that aside, I think, so we absolutely need good game writers. We probably don't need perhaps so many. So I would give an advice that I would give to basically anyone that I talk to today, that you have to think about where you want to go in the industry. Big companies with hundreds and maybe even thousands of people working on a single game, you can have people that are very, very specialized. So that's one way to go, is to become the best game writer there is out there. But the other way to go is actually to be very wide. You know, maybe you can do some coding and some writing, or some design and some writing, etc. So you have to think a little bit about what kind of game developer and for what kind of company do you want to work. If you're going to start your own company, you probably really need to think about going wide, so you can do multiple disciplines, I would say. That would be my advice.
And that's probably great advice, but how many people work as games writers in Sweden?
I have no idea.
200?
I can't even estimate it.
5? Somewhere between 5 and 200.
I don't remember. I don't know. It's probably not that many.
Yeah.
And actually, I think a lot of them might actually be freelancing even. But I'm guessing here.
Anybody have a better guess?
I asked this question. I got this question rather a lot by mail. I'm a game writer. What should I do? And we don't teach game writing because there is no such demand. So we can start a game writing education, but I asked Massive, which are the closest to us, and they are like 5 of them, and a lot of them comes from creative writing courses from universities. The thing is that we really need people to be good at English, and writing. But in the game assembly, you asked what we do is that we like pictures. Expressing yourself with pictures is the way we use. We don't use the writing, but so we come around it that way. Yeah, we do it that way. We talk with pictures instead. So we don't teach game writing at all.
I think skills in the English language is overstated. Let's get another question. Yeah, that worked much better. Yeah, good advice. Thanks. I'll try that. Okay, who has a question? Anyone? No? Now I can see you. If I step out of the light, I can see you. You can't see me. Nobody? All right. So let's look into the future then. What kind of skills do you see us as an industry demanding less of and more of in say 5 to 10 years? Because that's the time frame. What kind of games are we making in 5 to 10 years, and what kind of skills do we need to make those games? It's not such a big question.
It's tricky. Well, VR is coming, definitely. I mean, for us, we're doing the VR spectator mode, so we're actually looking into people on the marketing scene that's going to be able to handle these devices to make our trailers and stuff like that. So VR is coming in more than just game development as well, and I think people need to have a wider perspective on it. And also, just for game design, when it comes to VR, I think it's going to be the biggest challenge. Because, I mean, programming is also going to be programming, but game designing good for VR and what you can do there and understand the limitations, I think, is definitely what's coming next.
VR is like the topic that you absolutely have to discuss in every panel. So let's use that then as a starting point for the skills, and thanks for bringing that up. Martin, when you look for potential investments, do you look specific? Let me rephrase. We have so many investors from other places like China coming to us and ask, do you have some good VR companies that we can invest in? Do you have a similar strategy? Are you looking specifically for that kind of technology, or how do you see VR playing out?
Short answer, no. We don't look at VR companies at this point.
Not at all?
Not at all.
You actively chose not to look at VR. Why?
Yes. I still believe it's a bit too early to invest in. I think it's a very interesting technology, obviously, but the market is just not there yet. And again, we're not. The current setup of Nordisk Film Games is that we're not the seed investor, we're not the early stage investor. So we want to see the market evolve before we step in and start investing. So
what you're saying is that no VR developer is making money yet, and you will not invest until they do?
Well, I mean, if sort of the...
I don't want to put words in your mouth.
The short answer is yes. But they don't have to be profitable for us to be interested in investing, but we need to see a real market being out there, and we don't see that yet. And I think I mean, I've been trying out the PlayStation VR the whole weekend, and I got nauseous playing Eve Valkyrie, which is a fantastic game, but I got woozy. But anyway, so I'm unfortunately not convinced that the technology is quite there yet. It's obviously a lot better than Lawnmower Man.
Great movie,
and obviously there's so much push, so there is definitely a chance that sort of this time around the VR is here to stay. But I'm not entirely convinced that is so. I still think it might be 5-10 years before there's a real VR market. I hope to be wrong, but I'm not convinced yet.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Yeah, I said 5 to 10 years. That's right. That
5
was
years
my
into
time,
the future. Okay.
That was my time frame for the skills.
Yeah, so maybe in 5 years.
Yeah. But let's go to answer them for the skills part. So with these tech breakthroughs, suddenly new kinds of needs for skills arrive, like when the touch screens became huge with the iPhone 2008-ish. How can you as an educator deal with something that arrives as suddenly as that? And VR is similar, I find. Or would you agree that VR is similar?
Yes, because if we work with the 2.5 years, our students stay with us for 2.5 years. So 2.5 years ahead might be when the VR is coming, not 5, because the future is coming faster and faster. Okay, but I would say we have applied for game animation and technical art, and I think those two are really in demand for, but also UX and what was I going to say? Something else.
Maybe AI?
Yeah, AI, and always programming. That's what that's the biggest demand. We had some workshops talking about that. Yeah. And that we talked about also about, community management and stuff. But
all right, because that's the magic of games, that players create the game just as much as the game developer.
Yes.
So how can you tap into that kind of... Yeah, okay, so Martin wants to get that.
I had to take this. Well, yes, user-created content is something, if you ask for trends, that is the one big trend that hasn't really happened yet, but that I think will completely transform the games industry in the future. That we're going to see so much more games and basically game platforms being created with easy-to-use tools so that the users themselves can create the content and share the content, obviously, with their friends.
So they're putting all the game developers out of a job?
Both yes and no. As game developers, we will need to be platform creators. We will need to create the platforms and the initial game experiences where the users then can create their own experiences on top.
Make your game UGC friendly. That's the advice from the investor and industry veteran.
Yes, but not UGC. This is a pet peeve I have, but not user-generated content, because that implies sort of an automated process. Whereas for me, it's the creativity, the user-created content, UCC, which is a word I think we should be using when talking about this.
Yeah, you hear that? UCC, that's
user
the new
created
catchphrase.
Content. It's
yeah,
creativity.
The new buzzword, new UCC.
Yes.
All right. KM, you left a huge company, a hugely successful company, and you started this this trip on an uncharted ocean.
Trip.
Yeah, this journey. Yeah. That's another great game. What do you see in the future? Do you see the big companies going out of style, or will they continue to be as powerful today? Or do you see what kind of companies do you see in the future? What's the industry going to look like?
Well, there's no shortage of people that would like to bring up a little bit of a soapbox and stand up it and declare this version of games are the next thing, or these are the platforms that are going to die, or this kind of form of developing games. And I strongly don't believe in that, actually. I think it's a very cyclic procedure that keeps going on. I mean, the companies that are big today, there were small ones. New big companies might be sitting here being formed by 2 or 3 guys or girls at this point. speaking from my own personal, reflection, being part of the smaller games company, something becoming very big, it's actually a change of just pace, of change of following my own personal passion. And I think that goes for a lot of people that have been in the industry for a long period of time, that after a while, maybe you build something very successful, then you want to start over, follow the cycle all the way through and try something else. So this is never ending, really. It's not like big AAA development is going to go out of style, even though a lot of people have tried to say that for a long period of time. People talk about the indie apocalypse, that Steam is so flooded with games right now that the indie scene is going to die. That's completely wrong as well. Will it be more harder to be a successful AAA developer? Will it be harder to be a successful indie developer because of this word is very hard to say, but the democratization of making games, that it's basically much easier for people to start making games, so there are more games out there. Yes, that's absolutely true, but it's going to come down to the skill, right? If you have a really good game, no matter what kind of game it is, you will be successful. Maybe you can, do with a partner to help you out, shameless plug for us, or you can just do it on your own with the help of somebody that has the money over there. So just if you can cut through the noise, you can be very successful, right? And it doesn't matter what you want to do. The only one thing I would perhaps raise that has been my pet peeve the last month is be wary a little bit of what kind of labels you put on yourself and your company. If you say that we are independent, is that really important for what you guys are doing, the business that you're building, or is it actually really to be more successful with your game? In the same way as that if you go out and say that we are going to build a company that's going to be a AAA developer, automatically the market expects a certain amount of content, quality, a $60 price point, 3 sequels planned in the pipeline, otherwise investors gets worried, perhaps. So think about those labels. It's not about the labels you put on yourself. It's actually what do you want to do with your game and what do you want to do with your company.
All right, thank you. And the UCC is not going to help the oversupply either. So yeah, Martin, I think you have. There's something behind that, but we'll find out one day. Here's the last chance to ask a question. Yes, over there. Who are you and what's your question?
I'm Julia. I'm also a game writing student. My question is not related to game writing itself. There's a trend right now with older studios releasing their old games, re-releasing them for Android and iOS, for example. And they release, for example, Icewind Dale, Baldur's Gate games, and so on, gets re-released for mobile. And so there is a demand for more hardcore games for mobile platforms. But as I see it, no one is. What's the future trying to develop more hardcore games for mobile, since I feel like there is no one doing it right now?
All right, good question. More hardcore for mobile. Are the old games, the back catalog, killing the creativity and the more ambitious games for hardcore, for mobile? Yeah.
That's a very good and hard question to answer.
Anybody had a good, insightful answer to that? Martin,
no real insights. Well, all I can answer is more of a feeling I have, and maybe I misunderstood your question, but I definitely believe there is a lot of more room for hardcore games in mobile. Mobile is just one other platform. It's everyone has it in their pocket. So in a way, it was natural that it started with a more casual approach, especially with sort of the power of the early devices. But hardcore games will definitely be part of mobile going forward, even more than it is today, absolutely.
But who wants to? I spent probably 200 hours on Baldur's Gate in a very bad position in front of my desktop computer. I couldn't imagine spending 200 hours on my smartphone. Am I just... All right, so...
You're too old.
I'm too old. Yeah, that's not the first time today.
If you add up all the hours you spend in front of your mobile phone, not doing games perhaps, but how many hours is that?
Different things, bite size.
When it comes to mobile, if you ask me, it has more to do with session time. And for me, sitting by my phone for 1, 2, 3, 4 hours, like you're doing World of Warcraft, I would never do on my phone because my PC or tablet at least would be a better option. So I think that's kind of what's making at least games that are designed for longer sessions like Baldur's Gate might not be as valued.
Thank you, Tao. That's the point I wanted to make, and they called me an old timer. Thank you. You're the hope. All right, Martin.
You're too young. No, but I agreed. I mean, hardcore games for mobile are not just clones of hardcore games for PC or console. They obviously need to be designed for the mobile touch interface and the screen. But I guess most people wouldn't call this game that I'm going to mention a hardcore game, and maybe I agree. But I had a 2-hour Hearthstone binge yesterday on mobile because it's a brilliant game, and I was so close to reaching rank 8. I never did. I'm still at rank 9, but I just couldn't let it go.
All right. Tao, I want to bring it back now to this city, Skövde. Stunlock started as a company here. You've grown here. You became successful here. Will you stay here? And where do you see the future? Okay, yes. You hear that, local policymakers? There's a pledge from Stunlock to stay in this city. So why do you stay?
I mean, the environment here is something we really like. The incubator, the university, the connections there. I mean, we're doing research as I don't know if you knew that's why I ran from the meeting earlier to do a talk on our research together with the university. And I think most of the people at our studio they're not interested in that intense big city vibe, really. We like Skövde. It has everything close by and everything we need is here. There's no reason to move. We also have people from all over the country, and Skövde is kind of in the middle, so it's not too far for anyone to go home. At least we have a bunch of guys from up north, but it's always far for them, so it doesn't matter.
But Skövde has been on this crazy roller coaster ride of success for the past 12 years or so, 10, 12 years.
Isn't it the thing with the roller coaster ride that it goes up and down?
Yeah, okay, so it's been an upward roller coaster.
a
straight up roller coaster. I'm designing theme parks in my spare time. What should Skövde do to keep building this momentum to stay successful?
I mean, we just need more of the companies getting a bit more stable from the incubator. I think one key is more places to live. I mean, still the biggest issue here in Skövde is when people are finished at the university, they have nowhere to go. So a lot of people move back home, and that's really sad for the city because the incubator's actual purpose is to keep the people that get educated here is to stay. But if there's nowhere to live, it won't work.
Right, thank you. Now, 2 people have told me to quit. Not my job, but to close this panel. So I'll make a second attempt to close it. I want to thank the half of the panel, or the 2/3 of the panel that stayed. I want to thank you guys, the audience, and everybody who helped, and the organizers. I thought the second part of the panel was so much better than the first part, so good riddance. All right, have fun, you crazy kids.